Captain Sarah Chen floated through the empty corridors of Shipyard Station 7, her magnetic boots clicking against the metal floor with each step. The station had been abandoned for nearly 15 years, left to orbit silently around Jupiter's moon Europa. Dust particles danced in the beams of her helmet light as she made her way deeper into the facility. She was not supposed to be here. Her orders were clear: inspect the outer docking bays for salvageable materials and report back to Earth Command. But something had caught her attention on the station's old computer system. A file marked Project Prometheus that required security clearance she barely possessed. The file spoke of a warship. Not just any warship, but something that had been built in secret during the darkest days of human-alien relations 23 years ago, back when first contact with the Zephyrian Empire had gone from hopeful diplomacy to tense standoffs almost overnight. Sarah's breath fogged her helmet visor as she approached the sealed doors of Docking Bay 12. According to the files, this bay had been classified as permanently sealed since 2387. The official reason was structural damage from a meteor strike. But the real files told a different story. Her fingers worked the manual override panel, inputting codes she had memorized from the classified documents. The massive doors groaned to life after decades of silence, separating slowly to reveal the chamber beyond. What Sarah saw took her breath away. The ship was enormous, easily 3 times the size of the largest vessels in Earth's current fleet. Its hull was a dark gray metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange geometric patterns covered its surface, and weapon ports that looked nothing like conventional human designs dotted its flanks. "My God," Sarah whispered into her comm unit. "It's real." She pushed herself forward into the bay, marveling at the ship's alien appearance. This was human engineering, but it looked like nothing Earth had ever built before or since. The design was aggressive, predatory even. Every line and curve seemed designed for one purpose: war. Sarah accessed her tablet and pulled up the classified files again. The ship had been designed by Dr. Marcus Webb, humanity's most brilliant weapons engineer. The project had started after the Zephyrians had made veiled threats about human expansion into their territory. Earth's leaders had realized that human technology was centuries behind the Empire's capabilities. Dr. Webb had proposed something radical. Instead of trying to match alien technology, humanity would create something completely different, something the aliens would never expect or understand. The Prometheus used principles that the Zephyrians had never encountered: quantum-fold weapons that could tear holes in space itself, adaptive artificial intelligence that could learn and evolve during combat, dimensional shielding that could phase the ship partially out of normal spacetime. But the project had been cancelled abruptly in 2388, when diplomatic relations with the Empire suddenly improved. The Zephyrians had signed trade agreements and peace treaties. They spoke of cooperation and mutual benefit. Earth's leaders decided that such an aggressive warship was no longer necessary. Dr. Webb had protested. He claimed the Zephyrians were not to be trusted. He argued that they were simply buying time to study human weaknesses. But his warnings were ignored. The Prometheus was sealed away and classified beyond top secret. Dr. Webb died 2 years later in what was officially ruled an accident. Sarah pulled herself along the ship's hull using maintenance handholds. She found an airlock and was surprised when her security codes actually worked. The ship's computers had been in standby mode for over 20 years, but they recognized her authorization. The interior of the Prometheus was as strange as its exterior. The corridors were wider than normal, with odd angles that seemed to bend space in impossible ways. The walls were covered in displays showing incomprehensible readouts and star charts that hurt to look at directly. Sarah made her way to what the ship's computer identified as the bridge. The command center was circular, with a captain's chair in the center surrounded by workstations that looked more like alien artifacts than human technology. As she settled into the captain's chair, the ship's systems began to activate around her. Lights came online, and the displays showed system after system coming out of hibernation mode. The ship had been waiting all these years, ready to wake up at a moment's notice. A holographic figure materialized in front of her. It was a middle-aged man with kind eyes and gray hair. Sarah recognized him from the files as Dr. Webb himself. "If you are seeing this message," the hologram said, "then the situation must be desperate indeed. I am Dr. Marcus Webb, creator of the Prometheus. If my worst fears have come true, then the Zephyrian Empire has finally shown their true nature." Sarah leaned forward, captivated by the long-dead scientist's words. The Empire has been planning this for decades, Webb continued. They never intended to honor their treaties. They used the peace to study us, to learn our weaknesses, to position their forces. By the time they reveal their true intentions, it will seem too late to stop them. The hologram gestured to the bridge around him. But it is not too late. The Prometheus represents 20 years of human ingenuity, compressed into technologies the Empire cannot comprehend. They think in terms of brute force and overwhelming numbers. They have never faced an enemy that fights with cunning and innovation. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Something about the hologram's words felt prophetic, as if Dr. Webb had been able to see into the future. The ship's AI is named Athena, Webb explained. She is not just a computer program. She is something new, something that exists at the intersection of human creativity and quantum consciousness. She will be your partner in the battles to come. A new voice filled the bridge, feminine and strangely warm despite being artificial. Hello, Captain Chen, I have been waiting for you. Sarah nearly jumped out of her chair. You're the AI? Athena, I am. I have been monitoring galactic communications for the past 23 years, as Dr. Webb programmed me to do. I regret to inform you that his predictions about the Empire were correct. What do you mean? The main view screen activated, showing intercepted communications from deep space. Sarah watched in growing horror as Zephyrian military commanders discussed their plans for Earth. The peace treaties had indeed been a lie. The Empire had spent 2 decades positioning their forces throughout the galaxy, preparing for a coordinated strike that would crush human resistance before it could begin. The Grand Armada is already mobilizing, Athena reported. They plan to demand Earth's immediate surrender within the next 72 hours. If humanity refuses, they will demonstrate their power by destroying Mars' colony as an example. Sarah's hands shook as she processed this information. Mars' colony housed over 2 million civilians. How many ships are in this Grand Armada? Approximately 8,000 vessels of various classes, including 12 dreadnoughts and 47 battlecruisers. The largest military force the Empire has ever assembled. And what does Earth have to defend itself? The current human fleet consists of approximately 300 ships, most of which are designed for exploration and trade rather than warfare. Against conventional tactics, Earth's defeat would be certain within hours. Sarah stared at the tactical displays showing the massive disparity in forces. It was hopeless. Humanity was about to be crushed by an enemy they had trusted for over 20 years. But we are not fighting conventionally, Athena said, as if reading her thoughts. The Prometheus was designed specifically to counter overwhelming numerical superiority. Dr. Webb studied every aspect of Zephyrian military doctrine. He found their weaknesses. What weaknesses? They have 8,000 ships. They have never faced quantum-fold weapons. Their shields are designed to deflect energy beams and physical projectiles. They cannot stop attacks that bypass normal spacetime entirely. Their tactics rely on formation fighting and coordinated maneuvers. They become confused when facing an enemy that can appear and disappear at will. Sarah looked around the bridge at the impossible technology surrounding her. You're saying this one ship can fight their entire armada? I am saying this one ship was designed to make their entire armada irrelevant. But only if we act quickly. The Empire must not be allowed to position themselves around Earth. We must strike while they are still gathering their forces. Sarah's mind raced. She was just a captain in the Earth Defense Force, trained for patrol missions and diplomatic escorts. She had never commanded anything larger than a light cruiser. The idea of taking on the Empire's greatest military force with an untested experimental ship seemed insane. But what choice did they have? In 72 hours, the Empire would demand Earth's surrender. When humanity refused, millions of people would die, unless someone was willing to take an impossible chance on technology that had been gathering dust for over 20 years. Athena, can you contact Earth Command without the Empire detecting our transmission? Of course. The Prometheus uses quantum-encrypted communications that the Empire cannot intercept or decode. Sarah took a deep breath and made her decision. Open a channel to Admiral Rodriguez at Earth Command. Priority Alpha classification. The view screen shifted to show the weathered face of Admiral Maria Rodriguez, head of Earth's military forces. The Admiral's expression went from confusion to shock as Sarah explained the situation. Captain Chen, what you're describing sounds impossible, Rodriguez said after hearing about the Prometheus and the Empire's betrayal. An experimental ship that's been abandoned for 20 years? Weapons that the Empire can't defend against? Admiral, I'm sending you the intercepted communications. The Empire is mobilizing for an attack whether we believe it or not. We have less than 3 days to prepare. Rodriguez studied the data streams flowing across her displays. Her face grew grim as she realized the scope of the threat. Even if this ship is everything you claim, you're talking about one vessel against 8,000. The odds are better than sending our current fleet to be slaughtered, Sarah interrupted. Admiral, with respect, this is our only chance. Dr. Webb designed the Prometheus specifically for this scenario. We have to try. There was a long pause as Rodriguez weighed the options. Finally, she nodded slowly. Captain Chen, I'm granting you emergency authorization to take command of the Prometheus. But you'll need a crew. That ship is far too large for one person to operate. I'll need volunteers, Sarah said. People who understand that this mission is likely to be one way. You'll have them. I'll put out a call for experienced officers who are willing to take the ultimate risk for Earth's survival. But Captain, are you sure about this? Once you leave that shipyard, there's no turning back. Sarah looked around the bridge of the Prometheus, feeling the ship's systems humming with barely contained power. Somewhere out in space, the Empire's Grand Armada was preparing to destroy everything she had ever cared about. Her family on Earth, her friends in the fleet, millions of innocent people who had no idea what was coming. I'm sure, Admiral. Send me the best people you have. We're going to need them. As the transmission ended, Sarah settled back into the captain's chair of humanity's most powerful warship. In less than 3 days, she would either save Earth or die trying. But at least they would not go down without a fight. The Prometheus was about to remind the galaxy why humanity should never be underestimated. The emergency meeting at Earth Command had been going on for 6 hours. Admiral Rodriguez stood at the head of the conference table, watching as humanity's top military leaders struggled to accept the impossible situation they faced. The intelligence is confirmed, she announced to the room full of admirals, generals, and defense ministers. The Zephyrian Empire has been lying to us for over 20 years. Their so-called peace treaties were just a way to keep us calm while they prepared for invasion. Defense Minister Jackson slammed his hand on the table. This is insane. We have trade agreements with them, cultural exchange programs. There are Zephyrian diplomats living on Earth right now. All part of their plan, Rodriguez replied grimly. They've been studying us, learning our weaknesses, mapping our defenses. The diplomats are probably spies gathering intelligence for the invasion. General Morrison, head of the Mars Defense Force, leaned forward. What's the timeline? How long do we have? According to Captain Chen's intelligence, the Empire will arrive at Earth in 48 hours. They plan to demand our immediate surrender. If we refuse, they'll destroy Mars Colony as a demonstration. The room fell silent. Everyone present knew what that meant. Mars Colony was home to over 2 million civilians, including families of many people in this room. What are our options? Asked Admiral Park, commander of the Outer System Fleet. Rodriguez activated the main display, showing a tactical overview of human military assets. We have 293 ships spread across the solar system. Most are patrol vessels, exploration ships, and cargo haulers with minimal weapons. Our most powerful warships are 12 heavy cruisers and 3 experimental battleships. Against how many enemy vessels? 8,000 ships, including capital ships that outgun our heaviest vessels by a factor of 10. The numbers hung in the air like a death sentence. Even if every human ship fought perfectly, they would be outnumbered 30-1 by an enemy with superior technology. Minister Jackson buried his face in his hands. We need to evacuate. Get as many people off Earth as possible before they arrive. Evacuate to where? General Morrison demanded. They control most of the galaxy. There's nowhere to run. Then we surrender, Jackson said quietly. We negotiate the best terms we can and hope they're merciful. The Empire doesn't do mercy, Rodriguez replied. Their standard practice is complete subjugation. Humans would become slaves in our own solar system. The room erupted in arguments as the hopelessness of the situation sank in. Some called for evacuation, others for desperate last stands, still others for attempting to negotiate despite the obvious futility. Rodriguez let them argue for several minutes before calling for order. There is one other option, she said, bringing the room to silence. Project Prometheus, Admiral Park frowned. I've never heard of any Project Prometheus. It was classified beyond top secret. Only a handful of people ever knew about it. 23 years ago, When relations with the Empire first became tense, we began developing a new kind of warship, something that could fight using principles the Empire had never encountered. Rodriguez activated a new display, showing the sleek, predatory form of the Prometheus. The ship was completed but never deployed. When diplomatic relations improved, the project was mothballed and forgotten. One ship? General Morrison shook his head. Admiral, I understand we're desperate, but one ship can't fight 8,000. This isn't just any ship, Rodriguez explained. It was designed by Dr. Marcus Webb, using technologies that exist at the very edge of human understanding. Quantum fold weapons, adaptive AI, dimensional shielding. The Empire has never faced anything like it. Minister Jackson looked skeptical. If this ship is so powerful, why was it abandoned? Because it was considered too dangerous. The weapon systems were untested and potentially unstable. The AI was so advanced that some scientists worried it might become uncontrollable, and the ship's design philosophy was considered too aggressive for peacetime. But these aren't peacetime anymore, Admiral Park observed. Exactly. Captain Sarah Chen has already taken command of the Prometheus. She's requesting volunteers for what will essentially be a suicide mission. The room fell quiet again as the implications sank in. They were talking about sending one experimental ship with an untested crew against the largest military force in galactic history. What are the odds? Asked General Morrison. Rodriguez met his eyes steadily. Unknown. The ship has never been tested in actual combat, but it's the only chance we have. Over the next 18 hours, word spread quietly through the Earth Defense Force about the desperate mission. Captain Chen needed a crew of 150 specialists to operate the massive ship. They would be volunteers only, and everyone understood the risks. The response surprised everyone. Within 12 hours, over 2,000 officers had volunteered. Pilots, engineers, weapons specialists, communications experts, some of the best people in the fleet stepped forward to crew humanity's last hope. Lieutenant Commander James Park was the first to arrive at Shipyard Station 7. He had served as weapons officer on 3 different ships and had volunteered the moment he heard about the mission. As he floated through the abandoned station's corridors, he wondered what kind of ship could possibly stand against the Empire's Armada. When he saw the Prometheus, his doubts vanished. The ship was unlike anything in human space. It looked like it had been designed by someone who understood warfare at a level no human had ever reached before. Impressive, isn't it? Captain Chen's voice came from behind him. She had just arrived with the second group of volunteers. Captain, I've never seen anything like it. Those weapon ports. What kind of guns does it carry? According to the technical specifications, quantum fold cannons. They don't fire projectiles or energy beams. They actually tear holes in space-time itself. Lieutenant Commander Park stared at the ship's weapon systems. Is that even possible? Dr. Webb seemed to think so. We'll find out soon enough. More volunteers arrived throughout the day. Chief Engineer Sofia Martinez, who had designed propulsion systems for the newest human ships. Navigation Officer David Kim, who had mapped more star systems than any other human pilot. Medical Officer Dr. Lisa Thompson, who had served on the front lines during the border skirmishes with the Rigel pirates. Each new arrival brought skills that would be essential for operating the Prometheus. But they also brought doubts and fears about what they were attempting. As Captain Chen led the crew through their first tour of the ship, the reality of their situation became clear. The Prometheus was vast and complex, filled with systems that seemed more like alien artifacts than human technology. The ship's computer is an artificial intelligence named Athena, Chen explained as they gathered on the bridge. She's not just a program. According to Dr. Webb's notes, she's a new form of consciousness that exists partially in quantum space. The AI's voice filled the bridge, warm but somehow otherworldly. Welcome aboard, everyone. I have been preparing for this mission for 23 years. I am ready to serve as your partner in the battle ahead. Chief Martinez raised her hand. Captain, I've been studying the engine specifications. The power output is unlike anything I've ever seen. How is this ship even possible? Dr. Webb had access to theoretical research that was decades ahead of its time, Chen replied. He pushed human science to its absolute limits. Whether his theories will work in practice, we're about to find out. The crew spent the next 24 hours familiarizing themselves with their stations. The learning curve was steep. Every system on the Prometheus operated on principles that challenged conventional understanding. The weapon systems were the most complex. Instead of traditional energy cannons or missile launchers, the ship carried devices that could manipulate space-time itself. The quantum fold cannons could theoretically bypass any known type of shielding by attacking targets through folded space. The defensive systems were equally revolutionary. Instead of conventional armor and shields, the Prometheus used something called dimensional phasing. The ship could shift partially out of normal space-time, making incoming attacks pass through it harmlessly. But the most impressive system was Athena herself. The AI could process information and make decisions faster than any human crew. She could coordinate the ship's weapons, defenses, and movement simultaneously, while analyzing enemy tactics and adapting to counter them. As the final hours before departure ticked away, Captain Chen gathered her crew for a final briefing. The main screen showed a tactical display of the solar system, with red markers indicating the approaching Zephyrian fleet. "Ladies and gentlemen," Chen began, "in 6 hours the Empire's Grand Armada will arrive at Earth. They expect to find a defenseless planet ready for conquest. Instead, they're going to find the Prometheus." She gestured to the display showing their projected battle zone. "We'll engage them at the edge of the system, near Neptune's orbit. Our mission is simple: destroy or disable as many enemy ships as possible before they can reach Earth." Lieutenant Commander Park spoke up. "Captain, even with our advanced weapons, how can one ship fight 8,000? Chen smiled grimly. "We're not going to fight them conventionally. The Empire expects us to form battle lines and trade shots like civilized opponents. Instead, we're going to hit them hard and fast, using tactics they've never seen before." "What kind of tactics?" asked Navigation Officer Kim. "Athena will coordinate quantum fold strikes on multiple targets simultaneously. We'll use dimensional phasing to appear and disappear unpredictably. We'll turn their numerical advantage into a weakness by making them too crowded to maneuver effectively." Chief Martinez frowned. "Captain, that all sounds great in theory. But what if the ship's systems don't work as advertised? What if Dr. Webb's theories were wrong?" Chen looked around at her crew. 150 volunteers who had risked everything for Earth's survival. "Then we'll die fighting. But at least we'll show the Empire that humanity doesn't surrender easily." As the Prometheus powered up its engines for the first time in over 20 years, Earth Command transmitted a final message to the ship. "Captain Chen," Admiral Rodriguez's voice came through the quantum communicator. "The Empire has just transmitted their ultimatum. Earth has 12 hours to surrender unconditionally, or they'll begin the attack on Mars colony." "Understood, Admiral. We're moving to intercept. Sarah, good luck. Earth is counting on you." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Through the viewports, the crew could see Jupiter shrinking behind them as the Prometheus accelerated toward the outer system. Captain Chen settled into her command chair and activated the ship's combat systems. Around her, the crew took their positions at stations that no human had ever operated before. "Athena, how long until we reach the interception point?" 4 hours and 37 minutes, Captain. Long-range sensors are detecting the Empire fleet. They are maintaining formation and proceeding directly toward Earth. Any sign they've detected us? Negative. The dimensional shielding is functioning perfectly. To their sensors, we appear to be nothing more than background cosmic radiation. Chen nodded. The Empire was about to get the surprise of their lives. They thought they were facing a helpless planet defended by primitive technology. Instead, they were about to encounter humanity's most advanced warship, crewed by volunteers with nothing left to lose. In less than 5 hours, the Prometheus would either save Earth or die trying. Either way, the galaxy was about to discover that humans were far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. High Admiral Vextar stood on the command deck of the Imperial flagship Dominion's Edge, watching the stars slowly shift as his massive fleet moved through space. At over 3 kilometers long, the flagship was one of the largest vessels ever built by the Zephyrian Empire. Around it, 8,000 ships of various sizes moved in perfect formation, creating a display of military power that had never been equaled in galactic history. Vextar was ancient by human standards, having lived for over 4 centuries. His pale blue skin was marked with the ritual scars of a dozen victorious campaigns, and his forearms bore the ceremonial armor of the Empire's highest military rank. He had conquered 17 different species during his long career, adding their worlds to the Empire's ever-growing territory. Today would be his greatest triumph. The conquest of Earth would complete the Empire's dominance of this spiral arm of the galaxy. More importantly, It would prove once and for all that the Empire's patient strategy of deception and misdirection was superior to direct warfare. "Status report," Vextar commanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had never known defeat. Commander Zektel, his chief tactical officer, activated the holographic display showing the fleet's position. "We are 6 hours from Earth system, High Admiral. All ships report ready for combat operations." Vextar studied the tactical information with satisfaction. The Grand Armada was arranged in a perfect sphere formation, with the heaviest dreadnoughts at the center and smaller vessels forming protective shells around them. It was a formation designed to crush any resistance through sheer overwhelming force. "Have the humans responded to our ultimatum?" Vextar asked. "They have requested additional time to consider their surrender," Zektel replied, a typical delay tactic. "They hope to evacuate their leadership or perhaps hide their most valuable resources." Vextar's mandibles clicked in amusement. "Let them try. There is nowhere in this system they can hide from us. Once we demonstrate our power by destroying their Mars colony, they will understand the futility of resistance." The High Admiral moved to the observation deck, gazing out at the magnificent sight of his fleet. Each ship represented the pinnacle of Zephyrian military engineering. Their plasma cannons could melt asteroids. Their quantum shields could deflect any known weapon. Their faster-than-light communications allowed perfect coordination across vast distances. But most importantly, they had numbers. 8,000 ships against Earth's pathetic fleet of less than 300 vessels. The humans had spent the last 20 years building exploration ships and cargo haulers while the Empire had been constructing the greatest military force in galactic history. "High Admiral," came the voice of Intelligence Coordinator Nexrel, "our embedded operatives on Earth report that the human government is in complete panic. Their military leaders are arguing among themselves about whether to fight or surrender." "As expected," Vextar replied. 23 years of peaceful contact has made them soft. They have forgotten that the galaxy is a dangerous place for weak species." The intelligence coordinator hesitated before continuing. "There is one anomaly in their communications. References to something called Project Prometheus, but our operatives have been unable to determine what it refers to." Vextar dismissed the concern with a wave of one hand. "Human desperation. They are probably planning some futile gesture of defiance. Perhaps they intend to ram their ships into ours like the primitives they are." On the bridge, tactical displays showed detailed information about Earth's defenses. The humans had 12 heavy cruisers that might pose a minor threat to Empire destroyers. Their orbital defense platforms were armed with kinetic weapons that could barely scratch Imperial armor. Their ground-based defenses were laughably primitive. The only unknown factor was Earth's 3 experimental battleships, but Imperial intelligence had detailed specifications on those vessels as well. They were armed with fusion cannons and particle beams powerful by human standards, but centuries behind Empire technology. "Begin final approach preparations," Vextar ordered. "All ships are to charge their primary weapons and prepare for combat deployment. I want this over quickly." As the fleet moved deeper into Earth's solar system, the High Admiral reflected on the campaign that had brought them to this moment. The Empire's strategy had been masterful. Instead of launching an immediate invasion after first contact, they had chosen patience and deception. The peace treaties had served multiple purposes. They had kept humanity calm and unprepared, while the Empire positioned forces throughout the galaxy. They had allowed Imperial scientists to study human technology and biology. Most importantly, they had convinced Earth's leaders that the Empire could be trusted. The cultural exchange programs had been particularly useful. Zephyrian diplomats and scholars living on Earth had provided detailed intelligence about human psychology, military capabilities, and social structures. They had identified key leaders to target and mapped the locations of important facilities. Meanwhile, the Empire had used the 23 years of supposed peace to build the largest military force in their history. Entire sectors had been converted to warship production. New weapons had been developed specifically for fighting humans. Battle tactics had been refined through countless simulations. The humans had no idea what was coming. Their intelligence services were primitive compared to Imperial capabilities. They had no spy networks in Empire space. They had trusted completely in the goodwill of their Zephyrian friends. "High Admiral," Commander Zektel announced, We have reached the outer edge of the human solar system. Sensors detect minimal defensive activity. No significant fleet movements. Vextar nodded approvingly. The humans were behaving exactly as predicted. They were probably hoping to negotiate or surrender without fighting. Some species chose death before dishonor, but humans had always shown themselves to be pragmatists. Begin broadcasting the final ultimatum, he ordered. Give them one last chance to surrender peacefully. The transmission went out on all frequencies carried by the most powerful communication arrays in the galaxy. The message was simple and absolute. Earth had 1 hour to surrender unconditionally or face complete destruction. Vextar expected the response to be either immediate capitulation or desperate pleading for more time. What he did not expect was silence. For 30 minutes, Earth made no response at all. The lack of communication puzzled the Imperial command staff. Usually, conquered species either begged for mercy or hurled defiant insults. This complete silence was unusual. "Sir," reported the communications officer, "we are receiving a single transmission from Earth Command." "Put it through," Vextar ordered. The main screen activated, showing the face of a human female in military uniform. She appeared calm, almost serene, despite facing the destruction of her entire species. "I am Admiral Maria Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force," the human said. "Your ultimatum has been received and rejected. We do not surrender to liars and murderers." Vextar's mandibles clicked in amusement. Bold words from someone about to die. "You have seen our fleet. You know you cannot win." "We've seen your fleet," Rodriguez agreed. 8,000 ships. Very impressive. But you've made one critical mistake. And what mistake is that? You assumed we would be defenseless. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the Imperial bridge in puzzled silence. Commander Zechtel turned to his sensors. "Sir, I'm detecting a single human vessel approaching our position. Small ship, probably a scout or courier." "One ship?" Vextar laughed. "The humans are sending one ship against our entire armada? Are they insane?" "It appears to be an older design," the sensor operator reported. "Configuration unknown. No significant weapon signatures." Vexitar studied the tactical display showing the lone human vessel moving toward his fleet. It was almost insulting. Did they really think one ship could make any difference against 8,000? "Perhaps it's a messenger ship," suggested Commander Zechtel. "They may be coming to formally surrender." "Or it could be a suicide attack," added Intelligence Coordinator Nexral. "Humans are known for dramatic gestures." Vextar considered the possibilities. A single ship could not possibly threaten his fleet regardless of its intentions. Even if the humans had loaded it with explosives, it would have to penetrate layers of defensive fire from hundreds of escort vessels. "Let it approach," he decided. "If it's a messenger, we'll hear their surrender. If it's an attack, it will be destroyed long before it reaches us. Either way, it changes nothing." The Imperial fleet maintained its formation as the lone human ship drew closer. Weapons officers tracked its approach with mild interest, ready to vaporize it the moment it showed hostile intent. On the bridge of the Dominion's edge, tactical displays showed the approaching vessel in detail. It was larger than first estimated, perhaps 300 meters long. Its design was unusual, sleek and predatory, unlike the bulky construction typical of human ships. "Still no response to our hails," reported the communications officer. "They're maintaining strict communication silence." "No matter," Vextar said dismissively. "Whatever they're planning, it's already too late. Signal all ships to prepare for Earth's destruction. We'll deal with this lone vessel after we've made our point about resistance." The High Admiral turned his attention to more important matters, coordinating the attack on Mars, colony that would demonstrate Imperial power, 8,000 ships against one. The humans had truly lost their minds if they thought this gesture would accomplish anything. But as the Imperial fleet prepared to teach Earth a lesson about the futility of resistance, none of them noticed the quantum distortions surrounding the approaching ship. None of their sensors detected the dimensional phase generators charging to full power. None of their tactical computers recognized the threat signatures of weapons that existed beyond their understanding. The Empire had spent 23 years preparing for war against humans. But they had prepared to fight the humans they thought they knew. A primitive species with limited technology and predictable tactics. They had no idea they were about to face something that would rewrite everything they thought they knew about warfare. The lone ship approaching their fleet was about to demonstrate that humanity's greatest strength had always been their ability to think in ways no one expected. High Admiral Vextar was about to discover that sometimes one ship is all you need. Captain Sarah Chen sat in the command chair of the Prometheus, watching the massive Imperial fleet grow larger on the main view screen. 8,000 ships arranged in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with the deadly beauty of advanced military engineering. It was the largest armada in galactic history, and it was about to learn what human ingenuity could accomplish when pushed to its limits. Distance to target? Chen asked quietly. 50,000 kilometers in closing, reported Navigation Officer Kim. We're within range of their sensors, but the dimensional shielding is holding. They still read us as background radiation. Chief Engineer Martinez looked up from her console. Captain, all systems are showing green. The quantum fold cannons are charged and ready. Dimensional phasing generators are at full power. Chen nodded, feeling the weight of Earth's survival resting on her shoulders. Around her, the crew of the Prometheus worked with calm efficiency despite knowing they were flying into what should have been certain death. Athena. Tactical assessment? The AI's voice filled the bridge, warm but carrying an undertone of barely contained power. The Imperial fleet is maintaining standard formation. Their shields are raised and weapons charged, but they show no sign of recognizing us as a threat. Their tactical computers are calibrated for conventional warfare. Perfect. That gives us the element of surprise. Lieutenant Commander Park spoke from the weapons station. Captain, I've been studying the targeting data. Even with our advanced weapons, 8,000 ships is a lot. Chen turned to face her weapons officer. James, what's the first rule of asymmetric warfare? Don't fight the enemy's fight, Park replied. Force them to fight yours. Exactly. We're not going to line up and trade shots with them. We're going to hit them hard, fast, and in ways they can't predict or counter. The tactical display showed the Imperial fleet in perfect detail. The massive formation was a work of art. Thousands of ships moving in complete coordination, their weapons ready to unleash enough firepower to crack planets. But Captain Chen saw something else in that perfect formation. She saw a weakness that Dr. Webb had identified 23 years ago when he designed the Prometheus. The Empire fights with overwhelming force and perfect coordination, she said to her crew. Their entire military doctrine is based on using superior numbers and firepower to crush resistance quickly. But that doctrine has a fatal flaw. What flaw? Asked Medical Officer Thompson. They've never faced an enemy that doesn't play by their rules. They expect battle lines and formation fighting. They plan for conventional weapons and predictable tactics. They have no idea how to respond to something they can't understand. Chen activated the ship's communication system. Attention all hands, this is the captain. In approximately 10 minutes, we will engage the largest military force in galactic history. Our mission is simple: protect Earth by any means necessary. She paused, looking around at the faces of her crew. These people had volunteered for what everyone assumed was a suicide mission. They had left behind families and friends to stand between Earth and destruction. The Empire thinks we're helpless, Chen continued. They think 23 years of peace have made us weak. They're about to discover that humanity's greatest strength has always been our ability to adapt and innovate. Today we show them what happens when you threaten something we care about. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in focused silence. On the main screen, the Imperial fleet continued its steady approach toward Earth, completely unaware of the weapon moving toward them through folded space. 5 minutes to optimal firing position, Athena announced. Imperial sensors still show no detection of our true nature. Chen studied the tactical display one final time. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. The Prometheus would use its quantum fold cannons to strike multiple targets simultaneously, while using dimensional phasing to avoid return fire. They would create chaos in the Imperial formation, forcing the enemy ships to break ranks and fight as individuals rather than as a coordinated fleet. All stations report ready, Chief Martinez announced. The ship is performing better than theoretical. Specifications, Dr. Webb's designs were even more advanced than his notes indicated. Weapons hot, reported Lieutenant Commander Park. Quantum fold targeting, systems locked on primary targets, dimensional. Generators at maximum, added Navigation Officer Kim. Ready to phase on your command. Chen took a deep breath and activated the command override. Around her, the bridge hummed with energy as systems that had waited 23 years finally came online. Athena, you have tactical control. Execute attack pattern Web Alpha. The AI's response was immediate. Attack pattern Web Alpha acknowledged. Engaging targets now. What happened next defied everything the Empire thought they knew about warfare. The Prometheus seemed to fracture into multiple images as the dimensional phasing generators activated. To Imperial sensors, the single human ship suddenly appeared to be attacking from dozen different positions simultaneously. The quantum fold cannons fired their first salvo, and space itself screamed. Instead of energy beams or projectiles, the weapons created tears in the fabric of space-time. These rifts appeared directly inside the hulls of Imperial ships, bypassing shields and armor completely. The tears lasted only microseconds, but that was enough to catastrophically disrupt the molecular structure of anything they touched. The Imperial Dreadnought Eternal Glory simply ceased to exist as a quantum fold opened directly through its reactor core. One moment it was there, a 3-kilometer monument to Imperial engineering. The next moment it was an expanding cloud of superheated gas. 12 other Imperial ships died in the first salvo, their crews never even realizing they were under attack. The quantum fold weapons struck faster than light, giving no warning and allowing no defense. On the bridge of the Dominion's edge, chaos erupted as tactical displays showed impossible readings. What just happened? High Admiral Vextar demanded. Where did those ships go? Commander Zechtel stared at his instruments in disbelief. Sir, 13 vessels just disappeared, complete loss of contact. Disappeared? Ships don't just disappear. What attacked them? I don't know, sir. Sensors show multiple contacts around that human ship, but the readings make no sense. It's like they're existing in several places at once. Before Vextar could respond, the second wave of attacks began. The Prometheus phased through normal spacetime, appearing and disappearing seemingly at random. Each time it materialized, its quantum fold cannons fired devastating salvos that ignored every defense the Empire possessed. Imperial ships began breaking formation as panic spread through the fleet. Captains who had never faced an enemy they couldn't understand started taking independent action, destroying the perfect coordination that was the Empire's greatest strength. All ships maintain formation, Vextar broadcast frantically. Concentrate fire on those multiple contacts. But the Imperial weapons couldn't hit targets that weren't entirely in normal space. Their plasma cannons and particle beams passed harmlessly through the phased images of the Prometheus, while the real ship continued its devastating attacks. On the bridge of the Prometheus, Captain Chen watched as her plan unfolded exactly as Dr. Webb had envisioned. Athena, status report. First attack phase complete, the AI replied with what almost sounded like satisfaction. 47 Imperial vessels destroyed, 0 damage to Prometheus. The enemy fleet is breaking formation as planned. Lieutenant Commander Park looked up from his weapons console with amazement. Captain, these quantum fold weapons are incredible. We're hitting them faster than they can even detect the attacks. That's the beauty of Dr. Webb's design, Chen explained. The Empire spent centuries perfecting defenses against conventional weapons, but they never imagined attacks that come from outside normal spacetime. Chief Martinez, monitoring the ship's systems, reported with excitement. Captain, the dimensional generators are operating at 112% of theoretical capacity. This ship is performing beyond our wildest expectations. On the tactical display, the once perfect Imperial formation was dissolving into chaos. Ships scattered in all directions as their commanders tried desperately to understand what they were fighting. Beginning second attack phase, Athena announced. Implementing pattern web beta. The Prometheus suddenly appeared in the center of the Imperial fleet, having phased directly through their outer defensive shells. For a brief moment, it materialized completely in normal space, all of its weapons firing simultaneously. 50 quantum fold cannons created a sphere of spatial tears around the ship. Every Imperial vessel within 1,000 kilometers was torn apart at the molecular level. The devastating attack lasted only seconds before the Prometheus phased out again, leaving behind an expanding sphere of destruction. High Admiral Vextar watched in horror as over 100 of his ships simply vanished. How is this possible? He whispered. What kind of weapon can do this? Sir, Commander Zechtel reported with a shaking voice, we've lost contact with over 200 vessels. The human ship is using some kind of technology we've never encountered. 200 ships? Vextar couldn't believe what he was hearing. Against one enemy vessel? The tactical display showed the devastating truth. The Grand Armada, the largest military force in galactic history, was being systematically destroyed by a single human ship using weapons that shouldn't exist. But the worst part wasn't the losses. It was the complete helplessness. The Empire's most advanced weapons couldn't even hit their target. Their strongest shields provided no protection. Their perfect formations were useless against an enemy that could appear anywhere instantly. For the first time in his 4-century military career, High Admiral Vextar was facing an enemy he didn't understand and couldn't defeat. "All ships," he broadcast desperately, "retreat to minimum safe distance. Prepare for long-range bombardment." But even as the Imperial fleet tried to pull back, the Prometheus pursued them through folded space. The human ship appeared and disappeared at will, striking wherever the Empire's defenses were weakest. Each attack removed dozens more Imperial vessels from existence. The quantum fold weapons carved through the fleet like invisible scythes, harvesting Imperial ships faster than their crews could react. On the bridge of the Prometheus, Captain Chen watched the Empire's greatest military force slowly disintegrating under her ship's relentless assault. "Athena, how many Imperial ships remain operational?" 7,231 vessels, Captain. However, their morale is collapsing. Many ships are attempting to retreat despite orders to maintain position. Chen nodded grimly. The battle was far from over. But the Empire was learning a hard lesson about underestimating humanity. Dr. Webb's vision was proving correct. Sometimes the best defense was an offense so devastating that the enemy lost the will to fight. "Continue the attack," she ordered. "Show them what happens when they threaten Earth." The Prometheus phased back into normal space for another devastating assault, its quantum fold cannons ready to remind the galaxy that humanity was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The Imperial flagship Dominion's Edge shuddered as another quantum fold strike tore through the nearby heavy cruiser Merciless Victory. High Admiral Vextar gripped the command rail with all 4 hands, watching his magnificent fleet being systematically destroyed by a single human vessel that seemed to exist partially outside reality itself. 3 hours into the battle, the Grand Armada had been reduced from 8,000 ships to fewer than 4,000. The survivors were scattered across a vast area of space, their perfect formation shattered by panic and confusion. Many vessels were attempting to flee despite direct orders to maintain position. "Status report," Vextar demanded, his voice hoarse from shouting orders that seemed to make no difference. Commander Zektel's face was pale with shock. "Sir, we've lost over 4,000 vessels. The human ship continues to attack using weapons we cannot counter or even understand. Our plasma cannons cannot hit a target that phases in and out of normal space." "What about the concentrated bombardment?" Vextar asked desperately. "Can we saturate the area with enough firepower to hit it regardless of its phasing ability?" "We tried that, sir. The ship appeared directly behind our bombardment formation and destroyed 60 vessels in a single attack run. It's like fighting a ghost that can kill us but cannot be killed in return." On the main tactical display, the Prometheus appeared as multiple contacts scattered throughout the Imperial formation. Each contact was simultaneously real and unreal, existing in several places at once thanks to its dimensional phasing technology. As they watched, the ship materialized directly in front of the Imperial battle group. Its quantum fold cannons fired, creating spatial tears that carved through 15 ships in seconds. Before the surviving vessels could return fire, the Prometheus phased out of existence again. "How many ships has that one vessel destroyed?" Vextar asked quietly. "Over 4,000 confirmed kills, sir. No damage to the human ship detected. 4,000 ships, an entire Imperial sector fleet wiped out by a single enemy vessel. The scale of the disaster was beyond anything in the Empire's military history. "Sir," the communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender requests from multiple ship captains. They're asking permission to withdraw from the battle zone." Vexitar's mandibles clicked in rage. "No withdrawals. We are the Grand Armada. We do not retreat from a single enemy ship." But even as he gave the order, more Imperial vessels were breaking off from the battle. Captains who had never known defeat were fleeing in terror from an enemy they could not comprehend. The Prometheus appeared again, this time directly above the Imperial flagship. Captain Chen's voice came through the communication system, clear and calm despite the destruction surrounding her ship. "Hi, Admiral Vextar," she said. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. Your fleet is defeated. I'm offering you one chance to surrender before I destroy your flagship." Vexitar activated the reply channel, his forearms trembling with fury. "You think one ship can defeat the entire Empire? Even if you destroy this fleet, there are others." "You're right," Chen replied. "There are other Imperial fleets. But after today, they'll know what happened here. They'll know that humanity is not the helpless species you thought we were." "What are you?" Vextar demanded. "What kind of weapons are those?" "They violate every law of physics." "They violate your understanding of physics," Chen corrected. "Dr. Webb designed these systems 23 years ago, when your Empire first threatened us. We could have built an entire fleet of ships like the Prometheus, but we chose not to. We hoped that peace was possible." The communication paused for a moment before Chen continued. "You made us choose between peace and survival. So we chose survival." Another wave of quantum fold strikes tore through the remaining Imperial battle groups. The weapons created tears in space itself, bypassing every defense the Empire possessed. Ships that had seemed invincible moments before simply ceased to exist. "Surrender now," Chen's voice came again, "and I'll allow your surviving ships to return home. Continue fighting and I'll destroy every vessel in your fleet." High Admiral Vextar looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. These were veteran officers who had conquered dozens of worlds. Now they stared at their displays in helpless terror, watching their empire's greatest military force being annihilated by technology they couldn't understand. "Sir," Commander Zechtel said quietly, "perhaps we should consider—" "Never!" Vextar roared. "The Empire does not surrender to inferior species." He turned to his weapons officer. "Target that ship with everything we have. Maximum firepower." The Dominion's Edge and the remaining Imperial vessels opened fire with everything in their arsenals. Plasma cannons, particle beams, quantum torpedoes, and fusion missiles filled space with deadly energy. But the Prometheus simply phased out of normal space-time, allowing the massive barrage to pass harmlessly through the area where it had been. The ship reappeared behind the Imperial flagship, its quantum fold cannons aimed directly at the Dominion's Edge. "Last chance." Captain Chen's voice came through the communication system. Vextar closed his eyes, feeling the weight of 4 centuries of military service crashing down on him. He had never lost a battle. He had never even retreated from one. But he had also never faced an enemy like this. "All ships," he said quietly into the communication system, Cease fire and stand down. The order sent shock waves through what remained of the Grand Armada. Imperial vessels across the battle zone powered down their weapons and raised surrender flags. A wise decision, Captain Chen replied. You have 30 minutes to gather your surviving ships and begin your withdrawal from this system. Any Imperial vessel still in human space after that time will be destroyed. As the shattered remnants of the Grand Armada began their retreat, news of the battle spread across the galaxy at faster-than-light speeds. The impossible had happened. The Empire's greatest military force had been defeated by a single human ship. On Earth, Admiral Rodriguez watched the tactical displays with amazement as the Imperial fleet limped away from the solar system. Captain Chen, she transmitted to the Prometheus, I'm reading fewer than 3,000 Imperial ships withdrawing. What happened to the other 5,000? They chose to fight rather than surrender, Chen replied simply. The quantum-fold weapons don't leave much debris. The magnitude of the victory was difficult to comprehend. The Prometheus had destroyed over 5,000 enemy vessels without taking any damage. It was the most one-sided military engagement in galactic history. But the impact went far beyond the immediate tactical victory. Within hours, every major government in the galaxy had received detailed reports of the battle. The Empire's reputation for invincibility had been shattered along with their fleet. On the bridge of the Prometheus, Captain Chen addressed her crew one final time. Ladies and gentlemen, we've accomplished our mission. Earth is safe, and the galaxy knows that humanity is not to be underestimated. Chief Engineer Martinez looked up from her displays. Captain, what happens now? The Empire will want revenge for this defeat, Chen smiled grimly. Let them come. Dr. Webb left detailed plans for building more ships like the Prometheus. If the Empire wants a war, we'll give them one they'll never forget. The AI Athena spoke up from the ship's communication system. Captain, I have been monitoring galactic communications networks. The news of our victory is spreading rapidly. Several species that were conquered by the Empire are beginning to rebel. Good, Chen replied. Maybe it's time for the galaxy to learn that bullies can be beaten. As the Prometheus returned to Earth, its crew watched the stars with new eyes. They had proven that humanity's greatest strength was not military might or advanced technology, but the ability to think beyond conventional limits. Dr. Webb's vision had been vindicated. The Empire had prepared to fight the humans they thought they knew, a peaceful species with limited military capability. Instead, they had encountered something that challenged their fundamental understanding of warfare itself. The quantum-fold weapons represented more than just advanced technology. They represented a completely different approach to conflict, one that ignored the rules the Empire had assumed were universal. Over the following weeks, the political implications of the battle became clear. The Empire's client species began declaring independence, knowing that the supposedly invincible Imperial fleet could be defeated. Trade routes that had been controlled by Imperial forces suddenly opened to free navigation. The Zephyrian Empire, which had dominated this region of the galaxy for over 1,000 years, found itself facing the possibility of complete collapse. Their military doctrine was based on overwhelming force and intimidation. When that force proved vulnerable, their entire power structure began to crumble. Earth's government faced a choice. They could use their demonstrated technological superiority to build their own empire, replacing Zephyrian dominance with human control. Or they could use their victory to promote genuine peace and cooperation between species. Captain Chen, now promoted to admiral and placed in command of the new Prometheus-class fleet, argued strongly for the latter approach. "We didn't build these ships to conquer the galaxy," she told the Earth Council. "We built them to protect Earth. Let's not become the very thing we fought against." The Council agreed. Earth would share its defensive technology with other species, but only with those who committed to peaceful cooperation. The quantum-fold weapons would be used to protect free worlds, not to build a new empire. As Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, watching construction begin on 12 new ships of the same class, she reflected on how much had changed. 6 months ago, humanity had been considered one of the galaxy's minor species, peaceful but powerless. Now they were recognized as a major galactic power, but more importantly, they had proven that peaceful species were not necessarily helpless species. Sometimes, the greatest warriors were those who chose not to fight until they had no other choice. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson. Never underestimate a species that values peace enough to prepare for war. Humanity's restraint had been mistaken for weakness, but it was actually their greatest strength. When Earth finally went to war, they did so with the accumulated knowledge and determination of a species that had tried every alternative first. The Empire had awakened a sleeping giant, and that giant had reminded the galaxy that sometimes one ship really is enough to change everything. The age of imperial dominance was over. The age of human-led galactic cooperation was about to begin.
The deep silence of space was broken by the soft hum of the patrol ship Blue Star's engines. Captain James Walker stood at the bridge window, his eyes fixed on the endless darkness ahead. His ship had been patrolling the outer edges of human space for 3 months now, and every day felt the same as the last. But today was different. Today, something caught his attention. "Captain, we're picking up an unusual reading," said Kate Miller, the ship's engineering officer. Her fingers moved quickly across the glowing control panel. "It's faint, but it's definitely there." Walker walked over to her station, his boots making soft thuds against the metal floor. "What kind of reading?" "Metal. A lot of it. But the signature is strange." Kate's forehead wrinkled as she studied the readings. "It's like nothing I have ever seen before." Walker nodded slowly. After 15 years in space, he had learned to trust Kate's instincts. "How far?" "About 2 hours at standard speed, sir. It's just sitting there, not moving." "Plot a course," Walker ordered. He pressed the ship's comm button. "Tom, get up to the bridge. We might have something interesting." Tom Reed, the chief science officer, arrived a few minutes later, looking like he had just woken up. His gray hair was messy, but his eyes were sharp and alert. "What have we got?" As Kate explained the readings, Walker watched the stars through the window. Something about this felt different from their usual patrols. The outer colonies weren't supposed to have any ships this far out. Pirates rarely ventured this deep into empty space. Whatever they were approaching, it wasn't supposed to be here. 2 hours passed slowly. The crew grew more tense with each passing minute. Finally, Kate's instruments began beeping rapidly. "Visual range in 30 seconds, she announced. Walker leaned forward in his chair, put it on the main screen. The large screen at the front of the bridge flickered to life. At first, there was nothing but stars. Then they saw it. "That's impossible," Tom whispered. Floating silently in space was a ship, but not just any ship. It was massive, easily 3 times the size of the Blue Star. Its hull was dark, almost black, with strange patterns that seemed to shift and move in the starlight. The design was like nothing Walker had ever seen before, smooth in some places, angular in others, with sections that appeared to fold into themselves in ways that didn't make sense. "Are you getting any power readings?" Walker asked. Kate shook her head. "No, yes. Wait." She frowned at her screen. "The readings keep changing. It's like the ship is breathing." "Life signs?" "None that I can detect," Tom replied, now fully awake and working at his own station. "But these readings, Captain, according to my initial scans, this ship is old. Really old." "How old?" "At least 300 years. Walker felt a chill run down his spine. That was impossible. Humans had only achieved faster than light travel 60 years ago. There couldn't be a ship this advanced from 300 years in the past. "Sir," Kate called out, her voice tense, "I'm detecting something else. The hull, it's made of some kind of alloy I've never seen before. It seems to be absorbing our scan signals and redirecting them." Walker made a decision. "Bring us in closer. Standard approach pattern. Alert security to prepare a boarding team." As the Blue Star moved closer, more details of the mysterious ship became visible. There were no visible weapons, but something about the vessel's design suggested power. The hull wasn't just dark, it seemed to swallow the light around it. And those strange patterns, they were definitely moving, like ripples in a pond. "I found something," Tom announced. "There's an airlock on the port side, still sealed, and—" He paused, double-checking his readings. "There's air inside the ship, old but breathable." Walker stood up. "Kate, you're with me. Tom, keep monitoring from here. If anything changes, anything at all, I want to know immediately." The boarding team assembled quickly. Walker looked at the 6 people in front of him. Kate, 2 security officers, a medical officer, and 2 engineers. All of them were experienced spacefarers. All of them looked nervous. They crossed the gap between the ships in a small shuttle. Up close, the mysterious vessel was even more impressive. The hull seemed to react to their presence, the patterns moving more quickly as they approached. The airlock was surprisingly easy to open. It recognized standard human protocols, which only added to the mystery. As they stepped inside, their helmet lights illuminated a corridor that stretched into darkness. "Power's minimal," Kate reported, checking her handheld scanner. "But something's still running in here, some kind of background system." They moved deeper into the ship. Everything was clean. No dust, no debris, like the ship had been preserved in perfect condition. The corridors were wide, with strange markings on the walls that reminded Walker of circuit boards. Then they found the bridge. It was massive, with a ceiling that arched high above them. Instead of traditional control panels, there were platforms that rose from the floor, each covered in what looked like liquid metal that had frozen in mid-flow. "This is advanced," Kate whispered, her voice filled with awe. "Way too advanced for 300 years ago. Way too advanced for now." Walker approached what appeared to be the central platform. As he got closer, the liquid metal began to move. Patterns of light raced through it, and the air filled with a soft humming sound. "Captain," one of the security officers called out nervously, "maybe we should." Before he could finish, every surface in the bridge came to life. Light poured from the walls, and the liquid metal platforms began to shift and reform. A voice filled the room, neither male nor female, neither young nor old. "Human presence detected. Initiating awakening protocols. Guardian system online." Walker and his team stood frozen as the ship that shouldn't exist began to wake up around them. The bridge lights pulsed with a soft blue glow as Guardian's voice echoed through the chamber. Kate Miller's hand tightened on her scanner as streams of data began flowing across its screen. The security officers raised their weapons instinctively, but Walker held up his hand, signaling them to wait. "I am Captain James Walker of the patrol ship Blue Star," he announced, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "We're here on a peaceful mission of exploration." The liquid metal on the central platform swirled and rose, forming shapes that looked almost like holographic displays. "Welcome, Captain Walker. This vessel has waited 342 years, 5 months, and 17 days for suitable human contact." Tom's voice crackled over the radio from the Blue Star. "Captain, the ship's power readings are climbing. Whatever was sleeping in there is definitely awake now." Walker stepped closer to the central platform. "Guardian, you said you were waiting. Waiting for what?" "For humanity to advance sufficiently to understand what we offer." The liquid metal displays showed images of Earth, then various space battles, then complex mathematical formulas that made Kate gasp. This vessel was created by the Phoenix Initiative, a secret organization that operated on Earth during the late 21st century. Kate moved to one of the smaller platforms, her scanner working overtime. That's impossible. We barely had space stations back then. Correct, Engineering Officer Miller. The Phoenix Initiative discovered something they were not meant to find. The displays shifted, showing strange geometric shapes that seemed to bend in impossible ways. They found the remains of 3 different alien vessels that had crashed on Earth over the centuries. Each contained different technologies, different approaches to physics and space travel. The initiative combined these technologies with human innovation. One of the security officers, John, whistled softly. They built this ship from alien tech. Why haven't we ever heard of them? The liquid metal rippled. The initiative knew humanity wasn't ready. Other alien species were watching Earth. If they discovered that humans had access to advanced technology too soon, they would have seen us as a threat. The initiative created this vessel, named it Reckoning, and sent it into deep space to wait. Walker watched as more displays came to life around them. The walls themselves seemed to be turning transparent, giving them a full view of space around the ship. What makes this ship so special? Allow me to demonstrate. Guardian's voice took on a different tone, almost proud. Engineering Officer Miller, please approach the second platform on your right. Kate looked at Walker, who nodded. She stepped onto the platform, and suddenly her feet were surrounded by the liquid metal. She started to pull back, but then stopped, her eyes widening. I can feel the ship's systems. It's like they're talking to me. Her hands moved through the air, and displays responded to her movements. Captain, this ship's hull isn't just metal. It's billions of microscopic machines that can change their structure instantly. They can absorb energy, redirect it, or even use it to strengthen the hull. Correct, Guardian confirmed. The Reckoning was built to adapt and evolve. Every weapon fired at it, every scan performed on it, teaches it new ways to defend itself. It learns and grows stronger with each encounter. Tom's voice came over the radio again, more excited now. Captain, you need to see these readings. The ship's quantum processors are unlike anything we've ever built. They're not just fast. They're actually calculating things before they happen. Precognitive computing, Guardian explained. The ship can run billions of combat simulations in seconds, predicting enemy movements and calculating perfect counter strategies. But it requires human intuition to work properly. The Phoenix Initiative believed that technology alone wasn't enough. It needed to be guided by human creativity and determination. Walker looked around the bridge, taking in the incredible technology surrounding them. Why reveal yourself to us now? The displays suddenly shifted, showing various sectors of space. Red dots appeared, moving in formation. Because humanity faces its greatest threat. The Dominion fleet approaches your colonies. Their technology is centuries ahead of current human capabilities, but they have never encountered anything like the Reckoning. Kate was still working with the ship's systems, her face lit with amazement. Captain, these weapon systems, they're beyond anything we've ever imagined. The ship doesn't just fight. It rewrites the rules of combat itself. But we need to learn how to use it, John pointed out. And fast, by the looks of those fleet movements. Walker stood silent for a moment, weighing their options. This ship was a gift from humanity's past, built by people who knew this day would come. But it was also dangerous. Power like this could change everything. Guardian, how long would it take to train a crew to operate this vessel? Basic operations can be learned in 48 hours. Full combat capabilities will require approximately 5 days of intensive training. The liquid metal shifted again, forming what looked like training interfaces. I can begin immediately if you wish. Before Walker could respond, Tom's urgent voice came over the radio. Captain, long-range sensors just picked up something. 3 Dominion scout ships, heading this way. They'll be here in less than 6 hours. Kate looked up from her platform. We can't let them find this ship before we know how to use it. Walker straightened his back, years of command experience helping him make the decision. Guardian, start the training now. We'll split into shifts. half the crew learning while the other half maintains watch. Kate, you focus on the engineering and weapon systems. John, get your security team working on defensive capabilities. And you, Captain Walker, Guardian asked. I need to know everything about this ship's combat potential. Show me what the Reckoning can really do. He turned to his crew. We have 6 hours to learn enough to survive our first fight. The Dominion's about to discover that humanity has some surprises of its own. The liquid metal platforms pulsed with energy as Guardian began the training sequences. Around them, the ancient ship hummed with power, its hull rippling with patterns that seemed eager for the coming battle. Deep in space, where no human ship should have existed, humanity's greatest weapon was finally awakening, and not a moment too soon. Time moved too quickly as the crew rushed to learn the Reckoning systems. Kate's fingers flew across the liquid metal controls, her mind struggling to keep up with the flood of information Guardian was feeding her. The engineering systems were like nothing she had ever seen. They didn't just respond to problems, they solved them before they happened. 4 hours until Dominion scouts arrive, Tom's voice announced over the radio. He had stayed aboard the Blue Star to monitor the enemy's approach. Walker stood at the main control platform, watching tactical displays materialize in the air around him. Guardian was showing him combat scenarios, each one more complex than the last. The ship's quantum processors could predict enemy movements with frightening accuracy. Guardian, Walker called out, show me again how the hull responds to energy weapons. The display shifted, showing a simulation of a Dominion blast hitting the ship. The microscopic machines in the hull absorbed the energy, channeled it through the ship's systems, and could even send it back as a counterattack. The key is timing, Guardian explained. The hull can't absorb energy indefinitely. You must release it at the perfect moment for maximum effect. John and his security team were learning the defensive systems on the lower deck. They had discovered that the Reckoning could create energy shields unlike anything in the human fleet. The shields didn't just block attacks. They could bend space itself, making incoming fire miss entirely. Captain, Kate called out, her voice tense with excitement. I think I found something interesting. Her platform was displaying complex energy patterns. The ship's power core doesn't just generate energy, it harvests it from space itself. We'll never run out of power, but, she paused, frowning. Using too many systems at once puts enormous strain on the hull. 3 hours to contact, Tom updated them. Walker moved to Kate's station. What kind of strain? The hull's microscopic machines can burn out if we push them too hard. We need to be careful how we use the ship's abilities. One wrong move and we could lose whole sections of our defenses. Guardian's voice filled the bridge. That is correct. The Reckoning is powerful, but not invincible. It requires careful management of its systems to function effectively. Walker nodded, making mental notes. Everything about this ship was a balance. Incredible power that needed to be used with precision and care. Just the kind of weapon humans were good at mastering. 2 hours to contact. The crew worked faster. Kate had managed to link their modern communication systems with the Reckoning's ancient but advanced technology. They could now coordinate with the Blue Star seamlessly. John's team had mastered the basics of the shield controls, though the more advanced features would take days to fully understand. Captain, Tom's voice was urgent now. The scouts changed course. They'll be here in 1 hour. Walker looked at his crew. They weren't ready. Not really. But they had learned enough to have a chance. Guardian, what are our options? The tactical display expanded, showing their position relative to the approaching Dominion ships. The scouts are equipped with long-range scanners and energy weapons. Their shields are formidable by your current standards, but primitive compared to the Reckoning's capabilities. Can we hide? The hull can absorb their scanning beams, making us appear as space debris. However, this will alert them that something is wrong. Standard debris does not absorb scans. Kate spoke up from her station. What if we don't hide? What if we let them see exactly what they're afraid of? Walker turned to her. Explain. The Dominion thinks humanity is primitive, right? So let's show them something impossible. Let's show them a human ship that breaks all their rules about what we should be capable of. Guardian's displays shifted, running simulations of Kate's idea. An interesting strategy. The psychological impact could be significant. 30 minutes to contact. Walker made his decision. Kate, power up all systems but keep them running at minimum levels. John, have your team ready on the shield controls. Tom, move the Blue Star to a safe distance. He stepped onto the main platform, feeling the liquid metal respond to his presence. Guardian, show me the most efficient way to take down their shields. The next 20 minutes were a blur of final preparations. The Reckoning's hull rippled with barely contained power. Kate had all engineering systems running perfectly, ready to channel energy wherever they needed it. John's team had practiced their shield timing until they could react almost instantly. Contact in 5 minutes. 3 Dominion scouts, attack formation. Walker watched the tactical display as 3 red dots approached their position. The Dominion ships were sleek and deadly, their hulls gleaming with a metallic purple sheen that marked their advanced technology. They moved with precision, spreading out to surround what they thought was an easy target. "They're scanning us," Kate reported. "Their beams are much stronger than ours. They're trying to burn through our hull." "Let them scan," Walker ordered. "Show them exactly what we are." The Dominion ships suddenly halted their approach. Their formation shifted, weapons coming online as they realized what they were facing. "They're charging weapons," John reported. "High-energy plasma cannons." Walker felt a smile cross his face. "Guardian, let's show them what a real ship can do." Kate, power to weapons. John, shields at your discretion. Let's make humanity's first impression count. The Dominion ships fired as one, 3 brilliant beams of plasma streaking through space toward the Reckoning. John's team activated the shields, but not in the way the Dominion expected. Instead of trying to block the shots, the shields bent space around them, causing the plasma beams to curve away harmlessly. "Energy absorbed and ready," Kate called out. "Hull is charged to maximum safe levels. Guardian, target their lid ship. Let's return their greeting." The Reckoning's hull pulsed, and all the energy they had absorbed from the scans and plasma fire was released in a single devastating burst. The beam struck the lead Dominion ship's shields and shattered them like glass. The ship itself tumbled backward, its hull scared and its systems failing. The other 2 ships began to turn, preparing to retreat. They had come expecting to find primitive human vessels. Instead, they had found something that should not exist, a human ship with technology that rivaled or surpassed their own. "Should we pursue?" John asked. Walker watched the tactical display, seeing the fear in the Dominion ship's desperate retreat. "No. Let them run. Let them tell their fleet what they found out here. Let them wonder what other impossible ships humanity might have waiting." As the Dominion scouts fled into deep space, Walker looked around at his crew. They were tired but proud. In just a few hours, they had learned enough about this gift from humanity's past to drive off 3 enemy ships. But this was just the beginning. "How long until they return with a larger fleet?" he asked Guardian. "Based on their known behavior patterns, we have approximately 72 hours before they return with capital ships." Walker nodded. "Then we have 72 hours to learn everything else this ship can do." "Kate, John, get your teams ready for the next training session. We've shown them what humanity can do with just a few hours of practice. Let's show them what we can do with 3 days." The next 3 days aboard the Reckoning passed in a blur of intense training and preparation. Kate had barely slept, spending every possible moment learning the ship's complex engineering systems. Her mind felt like it was on fire with new knowledge, but she couldn't stop. Not with what was coming. "The hull can do more than just absorb energy," she explained to Walker as they stood on the bridge. She waved her hand through the liquid metal controls, and a section of the ship's wall became transparent. "Watch this." She sent a command, and the hull's microscopic machines began to shift. The metal rippled like water, then formed complex patterns that seemed to bend light around them. "Stealth mode?" Walker asked, impressed. "Better," Kate grinned. "The hull can create perfect copies of itself. We can make the enemy see multiple ships where there's only one, or make them see nothing when we're right in front of them." On the lower decks, John and his security team had made their own discoveries. They had learned that the shield systems could be used offensively, creating bubbles of warped space that could trap enemy ships or tear them apart. "The quantum processors are the key," John explained during their daily briefing. "They don't just predict where the enemy will be. They show us every possible move they might make. We can counter attacks before they even decide to make them." Tom's voice came over the radio from the Blue Star. "Captain, long-range sensors are picking up something big. The Dominion fleet is gathering at their forward base, at least 30 capital ships, maybe more." Walker stood at the main control platform, where Guardian was showing him tactical displays of the coming battle. The liquid metal swirled around his feet as he studied the enemy formations. "They're not just sending ships," Guardian announced. "They're sending their best fleet commander, Admiral Vex. His tactical abilities are considered legendary among the Dominion." "How do you know this?" Walker asked. "The Reckoning's quantum processors can intercept and decode their communications. Admiral Vex has never lost a battle. He believes this will be a simple operation to eliminate an unexpected human threat." Kate looked up from her station. "He's in for a surprise. Captain, there's something else you should see." She brought up a new display, showing the ship's power core. The sphere of energy at the ship's heart pulsed with colors that shouldn't exist in normal space. "The core doesn't just power our systems, it learns from them. Every time we use the ship's abilities, it finds ways to do them better, faster, more efficiently. It's like the ship is evolving with us." 24 hours until the Dominion fleet arrives," Tom reported. Walker gathered his crew on the bridge. They looked tired but determined. 3 days of non-stop training had changed them. They moved differently now, more in sync with the ship's flowing movements. "Guardian," Walker called out, "show us everything we know about their fleet." The air filled with holographic ships, each one a detailed model of a Dominion vessel. Their weapons, shield systems, and tactical capabilities were displayed in flowing streams of data. "Their capital ships carry quantum-tipped missiles," Guardian explained. "A direct hit would disrupt our hull's molecular structure. However, their targeting systems are predictable. The Reckoning can calculate their firing solutions faster than they can execute them." John pointed to the largest enemy ship. "That's Vex's command vessel." "Correct. The Dominion believes in concentrated command and control. Disrupt their flagship, and the fleet's coordination will suffer." Kate was working at her station, running simulations. "Captain, I think I found something. The Dominion ships use quantum communications to coordinate their attacks, but their quantum systems are primitive compared to ours. We might be able to interfere with their signals." Walker watched as she demonstrated, using the Reckoning's advanced processors to scramble test communications. "Can they detect the interference?" "No. That's the beautiful part. As far as they know, their communications are perfect, but we can subtly alter their targeting data, their sensor readings, everything. We can make them see what we want them to see." 12 hours to contact. The crew spent the remaining time running battle drills. Kate fine-tuned the hull's response times, finding ways to absorb and redirect energy more efficiently. John's team practiced complex shield maneuvers, learning to create overlapping fields of warped space that could protect the entire ship while still allowing their weapons to fire. Walker stood at his control platform, watching his crew work. They had learned more in 3 days than most crews learned in years. The Reckoning wasn't just a powerful ship, it was the perfect teaching tool, adapting its systems to match their growing skills. 6 hours to contact. "Guardian," Walker called out, "show me Admiral Vex's past battles. I want to understand how he thinks." The displays filled with tactical data, showing dozens of battles. Vex was indeed brilliant, but he had one weakness. He had never lost. He didn't know how to handle defeat, how to adapt when his plans failed. 3 hours. Kate called everyone to the bridge for a final briefing. The hull is at peak efficiency. We've mapped out every power conduit, every possible way to channel energy through the ship's systems. We can't match their numbers, but we can outthink them. 1 hour to contact. The crew took their positions. The Reckoning's hull rippled with barely contained power, its microscopic machines ready to adapt to whatever the enemy threw at them. The quantum processors hummed as they calculated millions of possible battle scenarios. "Guardian," Walker said quietly. "What are our chances? The Dominion fleet outguns us 30-1. Their weapons can crack planets. Their shields can withstand nuclear explosions." The AI paused. "But they have never encountered a ship like this, crewed by humans who learned in days what should take years to master. They expect a primitive vessel playing with stolen technology. Show them instead what humanity can do when pushed to its limits." Contact in 10 minutes. Dominion fleet emerging from faster-than-light travel. Walker looked at his crew one last time. Kate at engineering, her hands dancing through the liquid metal controls. John at tactical, his team ready to bend space itself to protect the ship. Tom watching from the Blue Star, ready to coordinate their movements. "This is what the Reckoning was built for," Guardian reminded them. "This is why it waited 3 centuries to be found. Humanity's greatest test is about to begin." The space around them lit up as 30 Dominion capital ships appeared, their purple hulls gleaming with deadly purpose. At their center was Admiral Vex's flagship, larger than all the others, its weapons already charging. Walker felt the ship respond to his thoughts through the control platform. "Let's show them what impossible really means," he said. Guardian, battle stations. Kate, power to all systems. John, shields ready. The Reckoning's hull began to glow as it prepared for war. The ship that shouldn't exist was about to face its greatest challenge, crewed by humans who had learned its secrets in 3 short days. The battle for humanity's future was about to begin. Admiral Vex's fleet filled the void of space with their massive purple hulls, their weapons charging with enough power to destroy a small moon. The Reckoning floated alone against the 30 capital ships, its dark hull rippling with energy as it prepared for battle. "Enemy fleet is launching fighters," Tom reported from the Blue Star, which had retreated to a safe distance. Hundreds of them. Walker stood calm at his control platform as the liquid metal swirled around his feet. "Kate, start the power cycles. John, ready the hull's stealth systems. Let's show them our first trick." The Dominion fighters streaked toward them, their engines leaving purple trails in the darkness. But as they approached, something strange happened. The Reckoning seemed to blur, then split into 3 identical ships. "Energy mirrors holding steady," Kate reported from her station. "The hull is producing perfect copies. They won't know which one is real until it's too late." The fighters split their formation, trying to attack all 3 targets at once. Their weapons fired, filling space with deadly energy beams. But the Reckoning's quantum processors had already calculated their attack patterns. John's team activated the shield systems, bending space itself to redirect the enemy fire harmlessly away. "Dominion command frequency detected," Guardian announced. "Admiral Vex is ordering his capital ships to advance." The massive enemy vessels moved forward, their main guns glowing with building power. Walker watched the tactical display as the quantum processors showed him their likely moves. "Kate, ready the hull absorbers. They're about to hit us with everything they have." The capital ships fired as one, 30 beams of devastating energy lancing out toward the Reckoning and its mirror images. The real ship's hull came alive, its microscopic machines working in perfect harmony to absorb the incoming fire. "Hull charge at maximum," Kate shouted. "We need to release the energy now." Walker's hands moved through the liquid metal controls. "Guardian, calculate maximum damage point. John, drop the mirrors on my mark." He waited as the quantum processors found the perfect target. Now, the mirror images vanished, and the Reckoning released all its stored energy in a single massive burst. The beam struck one of the Dominion capital ships dead center. Its shields shattered instantly, and its hull cracked open like an egg. The mighty vessel split in two, secondary explosions tearing it apart from within. "First blood to the impossible ship," Guardian commented. But Admiral Vex was not legendary for nothing. His fleet quickly adapted, spreading out in a new formation that would prevent the Reckoning from concentrating its fire effectively. "They're surrounding us," John warned. "Multiple targeting locks detected." Walker smiled. "Kate, show them your new trick." Kate's fingers danced through the controls. The Reckoning's hull began to change, its surface becoming like liquid mirror. When the Dominion ships fired, their beams didn't just miss. They were reflected back, each ship hit by its own weapons. "Their shields are weakening," Guardian reported. But Admiral Vex is launching the quantum-tipped missiles. Dozens of missiles streaked out from the Dominion ships, their warheads designed to tear apart matter at the molecular level. The quantum processors worked frantically, calculating trajectories and possible escape routes. "We can't dodge them all," John said, his hands moving across the shield controls. "We don't need to," Kate replied. Her station was showing new energy patterns forming in the hull. "The microscopic machines have adapted to the quantum signatures. They can match the frequency." And she didn't finish her sentence as the first missile struck the Reckoning. But instead of destroying the hull, it was absorbed into it. Then another and another. The ship's surface rippled like a pond in a rainstorm as it consumed each missile. "Power levels exceeding all previous measurements," Guardian announced. "Hull transformation beginning." The Reckoning's surface began to change. The absorbed quantum energy was reforming the microscopic machines, making them even more advanced. The ship wasn't just adapting. It was evolving in the middle of battle. "By all known laws of physics, this shouldn't be possible," Kate said in awe. "The ship is rewriting its own structure." Admiral Vex's voice suddenly boomed across all frequencies. "What manner of demon ship is this?" Walker keyed the response channel. "This is humanity's answer to your invasion. A ship that learns, adapts, and evolves. A ship that turns your own power against you. A ship that shouldn't exist, but does." The Reckoning's new form stabilized, its hull now covered in patterns that seemed to move in 5 dimensions at once. The quantum processors had evolved too, giving them perfect prediction of every enemy movement. "All power systems ready," Kate reported. "The hull can now generate quantum fields of its own." "Time to end this," Walker said. "Guardian, calculate a firing solution that will disable their entire fleet simultaneously." "Kate, prepare to channel everything we've absorbed." "John, drop all shields and give the power to weapons." The Dominion fleet was already trying to retreat, their legendary admiral finally facing something he couldn't overcome. But the Reckoning was faster now, its evolved systems operating at impossible levels. Space itself seemed to bend as the ship released its power. Quantum fields erupted from its hull, spreading out in a web of energy that trapped the Dominion ships in place. Then the main beam fired, not one beam, but 30, the hull splitting the energy perfectly to strike each capital ship at its weakest point. The results were devastating. Shields failed, engines died, and weapons went dark across the entire Dominion fleet. Admiral Vex's mighty Armada hung powerless in space, defeated by a single ship that had broken every rule they thought they understood. "Enemy fleet is completely disabled," Guardian reported. "Their power systems are burnt out. Life support remains functional." Walker opened the communication channel again. "Admiral Vex, this is Captain Walker. The next evolution of our weapons will not disable your ships. It will destroy them. Take your fleet and go. Tell your leaders what you found here. Tell them about the ship that shouldn't exist and what it did to your undefeated fleet." There was a long pause before Vex responded, his voice heavy with shock. "We withdraw. But know this, human, you have changed everything. The galaxy will hear of this day. Emergency power flickered across the Dominion ships as they slowly turned away. Their retreat was awkward, ungraceful, like wounded animals limping home. "They're gone," Tom reported from the Blue Star. "Long-range sensors show them entering faster than light. They're running straight back to Dominion space." The bridge crew of the Reckoning finally relaxed. Kate slumped at her station, exhausted but proud. John's team cheered as the tactical displays confirmed their victory. "Guardian," Walker called out, "what did we just achieve here?" The Reckoning has evolved beyond its original design parameters. The Phoenix Initiative believed humanity would need a weapon to defend itself. Instead, you have created something more. A shield that will make any future invader think twice before attacking Earth. Kate looked at her readings in amazement. The changes in the hull, the new quantum abilities, we can teach these to other ships, can't we? We can help humanity advance centuries in just a few years. Walker nodded, looking out at the stars through the ship's liquid metal walls. The Reckoning had been a gift from the past, but its greatest gift wasn't its power. It was the proof that humanity could master any technology, adapt to any challenge, and overcome any odds. The ship that shouldn't exist had just changed the course of human history. And somewhere out there, the Dominion fleet was carrying a message to the galaxy. Humanity was not to be underestimated. Not anymore.